Another frustrating day for the Gunners. Loss to Everton and points dropped at home to Brentford. It's a 3 point gap going into a very, very important fixture. Not the position we want to find ourselves in, right? God, man. I mean, and Brentford in fabulous form. This is, I think, what their ninth or tenth game
without
unbeaten,
a without a
uh,
loss. Yes.
which is incredible. I mean, we knew we were up against it, so we should have had more gusto going into the game, I guess, right?
Well, honestly, we just stopped playing in the first half, where we probably should have had a goal or should have created more chances to score a goal. The first half just seemed lost on us. Could have done better, and Brentford just took the game away from there. Like,
Yeah.
if you have the first 45 where you don't really do anything, it really gives the opposition all the more chances to like sit back and defend for the next 45 because you haven't really played the first 45.
And I feel that's kind of the biggest problem that Arsenal is going to run into into the second half of the season, right? Because you can assume that for the first half of the season, nobody saw Arsenal being as good and as dominant as they've been. So teams like Brentford were probably hoping to meet them on equal footing and trying to actually, play them as equals. Teams like Brighton coming out to play them as an equal side. Whereas in the second half of the season, given how good Arsenal have been so far, we're going to see more of that. We're playing up against potential champions mentality where a lot of our opposition is now going to spend their time sitting back, working us on counters, with deep blocks, and that's exactly what Brentford did. But you're right. I mean, they really should have been up a goal or two in the first half itself. Ivan Toney, so lucky to hit the post when the goal was completely gaping in front of him. Um, but yeah, Brentford sitting eighth in the table, I confirmed. Having a great season, great manager. They're kind of in this place where I don't think they're going to go much higher in the table. Um, but they're just enjoying their football. Really, nothing to lose. And you could see that mentality when they went that goal down. They just threw bodies forward. They just went in for it. They were like, okay, we don't care if we lose this match, so let's go ahead and like throw more people up. And they earned it, man. They got their goal, and fabulous result for them to come away and pile pressure on an Arsenal team that I don't know, man. I don't know what to say. Is this the wheels coming off, right? What do you think? What's going on here?
Too early to even think about that. I mean, if we ever thought there will never be bumps on the road for Arsenal, then we are probably wrong or in a delusion. Or, sorry, delusional. Or it's a delusional thought if you think there wouldn't be bumps on the road. What we should have expected was a Brentford side who are probably the topmost side in converting their set pieces. They've scored what 14 or 15 goals this season through set pieces. They are top of the table on that. So you need to know that they're going to be very sharp on their set pieces and they're going to attack it with all their might, especially after going a goal down. Could have avoided that. And I'm not really going to how that foul was even called because, as we all saw the video, it was Ivan Toney locking his hands with the defender. But again, that's a refereeing decision. And the officiating, again, I think teams are just running down the clock without really any sort of punishment, and the clock
Hmm.
doesn't stop. The second half and extra time, I didn't really see a lot more of football. I saw a lot more of stoppages. Every ball to be played out took 40 to 50 odd seconds right from the start. And it's something the Premier League needs to look at. This not coming from the frustration that Arsenal didn't score. That's a different matter altogether. We are trying to fit a square peg in a round hole where Eddie is trying to do the exact same thing as Gabriel Jesus, but
Yeah. Sorry, I do feel like in terms of the timing for the extra time stuff, I do feel like the Premier League is doing a little bit more. We're seeing more 5 and 6 minute extra time. So I guess they are trying to take a leaf off of that Qatar World Cup. But sorry, getting back to your point, yeah, you were saying about
yeah,
Martinelli and Eddie. My
Eddie, yeah,
sorry, I just wanted to say like my main issue primarily was the changes that Arteta made, and more so the changes that Arteta didn't make. I felt at a point that Zinchenko probably should have come off for us, made way for Tierney, especially given that we got Trossard in who likes to drift in anyway, and Tierney in and of himself is used to going wide and giving some width. But let's get back to your point about Eddie kind of hitting a rough patch, right?
I think I think he's trying to do a lot more things that Gabriel Jesus does, and there are certain qualities to Eddie that Jesus doesn't have, and certain qualities that Jesus has that Eddie at this point does not. So, in a sense, where you'd need two Eddie Nketiahs to like understand what one Eddie Nketiah is doing, the flicks in between the middle of the pitch where he's thinking of a quick 1-2, but he doesn't have that sync with maybe Martinelli or maybe whoever is there to the next to his side. You need to realize that there are certain things you can't really just do it and expect the ball will magically come back to you. That being said, Eddie is a centre forward and he needs to be making those third man runs, and we haven't really been doing the service of playing the ball more centrally. Teams are forcing us out wide like Everton did last week. Brentford almost executed the same DNA where they made sure that the ball went out wide to either Saka or Martinelli, and they almost did a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-1 against them. Trossard coming in did change that. And in the second half, if you noticed, after the 60th or 65th minute, Saka was starting to play more centrally, he was drifting more inwards. This is something that I've been calling out like at least for 3 weeks, and that's really what we need to be doing. And I think the way where we miss Gabriel Jesus the most is his interchanging ability with Martinelli. Martinelli was thriving off of Gabriel Jesus. Right now, him and Eddie aren't really working as in sync as those two were. So maybe the sub that I would have made would have been taking Eddie off, playing Martinelli at the center and Trossard on the left. But again, that's just me. The manager knows better. He did get the goal that he wanted, but we need to have defended better. We definitely need to do much better in defense and making sure that the ball doesn't stay in our half for longer periods of time.
Yeah, I think that is probably Eddie's big weakness is Jesus just finds a way to sort of bulldoze through a central block. In some ways, Eddie tries to work around it, which again, if you're blocking super low, you're not going to have room. He managed to get through once, but just as far as Brentford were, it made it really easy for Raya to come up and claim that ball. And yeah, that goal, man, I can't help but feel that Ramsdale should have done better. You could see him hesitate right before he went for the ball. If he wouldn't have missed that one step, if you're deciding to get off your line, you need to go and get the ball. You can't it just left the goal gaping open. Toney, obviously, the poacher that he is, was in the right place at the right time, found the back of the net. And as hard as it has been for us to score the first goal, I knew at that point that there was no way we were going to get the second. We just did not have the kind of attacking depth, the attacking sort of know how to break down the defense that Brentford did. It's the biggest problem, right? Is because we all knew we were going to have a bad run. The biggest problem is the timing of it. It comes in right as we are poised to face Manchester City. And that's the big one, right? That's what makes you nervous about it. Going into the match, I could tell with the lineup that Arteta put forth that he saw this game as an important one. He did not rest. I actually anticipated Martinelli to be on the bench. I anticipated White to be on the bench as well, who didn't have a bad game, but didn't have
Ben White had a better game, much better game.
Exactly. It wasn't a great game by any means, though. I don't know. This is going to be tough. I'm assuming he's going to play the same starting lineup going into that match against Manchester City. But as things stand, we find ourselves hoping for a favor from yet another club, just to make that Wednesday fixture a little bit easier, right? What are your thoughts? What are we going to do? What's going to happen going into that Manchester City game?
My reaction would really be based off on the second result that we get with Man City more than the first one, because if you draw them once and then you draw them again, it's like we've taken 6 points off of City in the sense that they don't get 6 points, they just get 2 and we also get 2. But if you lose the first, then there's a lot of pressure on the second. If you win the first, again, there is still a lot of pressure on the second one because you still need to keep your lead intact.
Mhm.
It is going to be a high stakes game. I expect both teams to be much more fluid in how they play instead of having these cagey affairs. City are not going to sit back and defend with 10 men behind on a wall.
Mhm.
I don't think that's going to happen. As long as I understand Pep, which I think I fairly do, he'll not do that. But again, this has been a season of surprises for a lot of us. Maybe City could have a pragmatic approach, or maybe Arsenal might lead with a pragmatic approach. I really want to see the lineup, and I think it's going to be the same lineup. Maybe one change at the most could be Tomiyasu in for White. Maybe. I'm not even certain about that. I expect it to not be a high scoring game, but a fluid game in general.
Yeah,
We
I feel
just have
like
to go one game at a time.
yeah,
Very simple.
I feel like this one might be a lot of like those City versus Liverpool games, which are almost decided by a goal because both teams are. It's not necessarily a defensive game, but it is a very apprehensive game where Pep probably wouldn't have his fullbacks bomb up as much as he typically does, and same for Arsenal, which again makes more sense for us to bring in Tomiyasu versus Ben White. I do hope that the current sort of issues around City, less so off the pitch. I really don't care about the case and stuff because I don't think it's going to help us at all this season anyway. But more so the issues with the staff, right? Because Kevin De Bruyne not starting games again, apparently there are issues there as well. Of course, the critics of Haaland starting to be a little bit more vocal now, given his lack of contributions over the last few fixtures as well. So I do hope that that sort of plays a part, and it's a game at Emirates. Like, I feel this game is very important for us just because it is the home game. You cannot lose the home game. If anything, we have to win this, having dropped points over the last two games. And it's going to have to be a mentality shift for Arsenal. We're really going to have to dig in and find something that we haven't found yet. I feel like the same sort of spirit that we found after that loss to Manchester United. I think we need that over here. This is going to be a very, very big game for us.
Fingers crossed for hoping for a better result. Again, today's result was much better than Everton's because we played better. I'm not certain if we really deserved to win because there were some off chances for
Uh-huh.
Brentford as well. But we did not deserve to lose. And I'm expecting a bit more consistency from the refereeing. That's all.
Always asking for stuff that is definitely never going to happen, right? But yeah, thank you
You
so much for watching. Please hit like, share, subscribe as always. Let us know what you think is going on at Arsenal, and what do you think is going to happen with that Manchester City game. And yeah, we will see you after that game. As always, like, share, subscribe, and fingers crossed.